Hi everyone. Today we will be discussing type 1 diabetes and its effects on mental health. Throughout the presentation, terms like type 1 diabetes, T1D, or simply diabetes will be used interchangeably. I also want to provide a little bit of a disclaimer before proceeding with this presentation. Mental health is a tough subject for a lot of people, but especially for people with type 1 diabetes. Please consume this presentation at whatever pace works for you, and feel free to step away and practice some self-care at any point if needed. These are the objectives for this presentation, which I will let you view on your own if desired. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. So we'll start with an introduction to mental health before transitioning into the interplay between mental health and diabetes. We'll then talk about mental health strategies for children and adolescents with T1D. And lastly, we'll also talk about some mental health strategies for parents and caregivers. Having a child with diabetes or really any health diagnosis that requires constant care and attention can be very stressful, so we will address the needs of parents and caregivers as well. Let's first establish what mental health is. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act, and helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. And if at any point in your life you experience mental health problems, your thinking, mood, and behavior could be negatively affected. For children, mental health means reaching developmental and emotional milestones and learning healthy social skills and how to cope when there are problems. It's currently estimated that over 20 million children and adolescents in the US could be diagnosed with a mental health disorder, which translates to nearly 1 in 5 children aged 3 to 17 years. Despite these alarming statistics, only about 20% of these children who need mental health services actually receive appropriate help from mental health professionals. Health disparities contributing to low quality or inaccessible mental health care are particularly pronounced for children living in low income communities, ethnic minority children, and oppressed populations such as those defined by physical, developmental, and intellectual disabilities, or chronic medical conditions such as type 1 diabetes. Mental health and well-being is important for several reasons. It has been shown to have a highly interactive relationship with physical health, which for children and adolescents can influence their ability to succeed in school, at work, and in society. Mental disorders are chronic health conditions, similar to diabetes, that can continue through the lifespan. Without early diagnosis and treatment, children with mental disorders can have problems at home, in school, and in forming friendships. Mental disorders can also interfere with a child's healthy development, causing problems that can contribute or continue into adulthood. Many different factors can influence a child's mental health. Genetic factors can play a huge role, meaning a family history of mental illness, especially if one of the child's parents has a known mental disorder. Similarly, mental health problems can be caused by imbalances in the brain chemicals that help regulate mood and behavior. Exposure to trauma can also impact childhood mental health. We refer to these as ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, and can include things like abuse, whether physical, emotional, or sexual, neglect, witnessing violence, losing a loved one, or others. Community and socioeconomic factors such as access to healthcare, economic stability, and neighborhood safety can impact a child's mental health. Ensuring that children have access to essential resources and support systems is crucial. Peer relationships and social interactions are essential for children's development. Positive friendships and social connections contribute to a child's emotional resilience, but conversely, bullying or social isolation can negatively impact mental health. Media and technology use, excessive screen time, exposure to age-inappropriate content, and cyberbullying can also lead to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, self-harming behavior, especially for girls, alcoholic and drug use and dependence, aggression, or involvement in violence or crime. We'll now discuss the interplay between diabetes and mental health. Mental health affects so many aspects of daily life: how you think and feel, handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Therefore, having a mental health problem could make it harder to stick to your diabetes care plan. Thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and attitudes can affect how healthy your body is. People who have diabetes, because it is one of the most cognitively and behaviorally taxing chronic medical conditions, may be especially susceptible to developing mental health disorders. Untreated mental health issues can make diabetes worse, and problems with diabetes can make mental health issues worse. Despite that, it is estimated that only 25 to 50% of people with diabetes who experience mental health challenges actually receive treatment. Fortunately, effective treatments, both involving or not involving medication, are available that can improve both mental health and diabetes management. While a T1D diagnosis does not guarantee a mental health diagnosis, it does put you at an increased risk of developing symptoms and being diagnosed with one. In that instance, early recognition and treatment is crucial for the well-being of your child and ensuring they maintain not just their diabetes care, but also well-being in all other areas of their life. The most common mental health conditions among children with T1D are listed here. The most frequent one being diabetes distress, which is often characterized by general feelings of frustration, exhaustion, or worry regarding diabetes daily care. It is estimated that up to 50% of individuals with diabetes experience distress regularly. Anxiety and depression are also common among children with T1D. Anxiety has been estimated to be found within 40% of individuals with T1D, and it's estimated that 18% of adolescents with T1D experience depression, a rate that is approximately 5 times that of non-diabetic peers. Anxiety is often characterized by restlessness, panic attacks, irrational fears, trouble sleeping, or having intense feelings of impending doom, danger, or panic. Depression can look different in children and adolescents than in adults, and this includes symptoms such as irritability or anger, poor performance or attendance in school, extreme emotional sensitivity, avoiding social activities, and experimentation with recreational drugs or alcohol. Lastly, while eating disorders are not as prevalent, it is still estimated to occur in 10 to 15% of children and adolescents with T1D, primarily anorexia and bulimia. Symptoms of eating disorders include distorted body image, restrictive eating, or excessive exercising. Next, we're going to go ahead and dive into some mental health interventions and strategies for children with T1D. All of the following mental health treatments, in line with the philosophy and scope of occupational therapy, are non-pharmacological, meaning they do not involve the use of prescription medications. Art therapy involves the use of creative techniques such as drawing, painting, collage, coloring, or sculpting to help people express themselves artistically and examine the psychological and emotional undertones in their art. This can be especially useful for children who have a hard time expressing themselves, as it allows the occupational therapist to interpret the messages, symbols, and metaphors often found in these art forms, which should lead to a better understanding of their feelings and behaviors so they can move on to resolve deeper problems. It has been proven effective for individuals diagnosed with depression, anxiety, stress, and physical disabilities such as diabetes. Journaling is the act of keeping a record of your personal thoughts, feelings, insights, and more. It can be written, drawn, or typed, and it has been shown to have positive effects on increasing self-awareness, reducing anxiety, and regulating emotions. The two primary forms of journaling used in psychotherapy are expressive writing and gratitude journaling. Expressive writing is a journaling technique in which one writes about their deep thoughts and feelings for up to 20 minutes per session. A gratitude journal, on the other hand, is a diary of accounts for which one is grateful and where attention is focused on the positive aspects of one's life. If you are new to journaling, it can sometimes feel daunting and hard to navigate where to start. Fortunately, there is no hard set rule on what you should write or for how long. When your child is first starting out, keep it simple. Have them journal for only a few minutes at a time of day that's good for you, whether that's first thing in the morning or the last thing you do before going to sleep. If your child does not like writing, encourage them to get creative with their journaling by creating lists, poetry, songs, letters, or through drawing art. There are also journaling prompts online that can provide a starting point for your child. Support groups, or any other kind of group therapy, have demonstrated great benefits for children and adolescents, including reduced stress, better coping strategies, the ability to share experiences and learn from each other, reduced feelings of isolation and stigma, and an increased sense of empowerment. Many nonprofit organizations, including JDRF, as well as individual members of the T1D community, offer support group options. Participation in hobbies, whether that's a sport or some other form of activity, extracurricular activities and clubs, or any other form of participation in a preferred activity, has demonstrated positive mental health effects on children. Research has shown that students who regularly participate in a hobby experience lower levels of anxiety and depressive symptoms, higher levels of self-esteem and self-image, and increased feelings of belongingness and community. Lastly, referral to a psychologist may be beneficial if your child requires the extra assistance. A psychologist is a healthcare professional who studies mental states, cognitive and emotional processes, and behavior. This is not to be confused with a psychiatrist, which is a physician that prescribes medications for mental health disorders and requires a referral. Therapy might be a helpful step in developing coping skills to overcome the challenges faced by depression, anxiety, burnout, or stress associated with type 1 diabetes care. If you find your child lacking the motivation to check their blood sugar or take their insulin, having trouble navigating their relationships with family and friends, or blowing off hobbies or activities that they normally wouldn't want to miss out on, it may be time to seek out the services of a psychologist. Therapy is much more widely available today, with in-person and online platforms available, and with most major insurance providers at least partially covering psychology services. Lastly, we're now going to focus on the mental health of parents and caregivers, as well as some strategies for addressing the mental health of this population. It is equally important to focus on the mental health of those who are responsible for children with diabetes or any other chronic health conditions. Parents of chronically ill children experience poorer mental health outcomes, usually in the forms of increased anxiety and rates of depression. Parents may encounter heightened levels of anxiety due to the uncertainties surrounding their most effective means of supporting their child. However, despite this, they frequently receive little to no assistance or guidance in addressing this delicate matter. A study conducted in the US on the health-related quality of life of parents of children with chronic diseases and parents of healthy children showed that the health-related quality of life for parents of children with chronic diseases was poorer emotionally, physically, and socially than that of parents of healthy children. Additionally, there is a perceived gender disparity in caregiving, particularly in cases where the child has a chronic illness. Recent studies on caregiving as part of the management of chronic diseases in children and adolescents reported that it is usually the mother who plays the main role in this respect, in addition to completing domestic work and other parenting responsibilities. Of course, there are also the financial implications associated with caring for a child with chronic illness, not just those related to medical care, but also often the silent costs of actually providing the care at home, at school, and in any other environment your child may find themselves in. And all of this can be even further exacerbated by having multiple children to care for, regardless of their health status. Parents and caregivers of chronically ill children are at risk of developing what is known as caregiver burnout, which is defined as a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that happens while you're taking care of someone else. You do a lot as the parent or caregiver of a child with T1D, helping with their daily routine, completing housework, managing their medications, managing family finances, monitoring their health status, advocating or communicating your child's needs with healthcare providers, agencies, or community members, among many other tasks. Caregivers who experience burnout may feel tired, stressed, withdrawn, anxious, or depressed. Caregiver burnout can impact a person in various ways, including physically, psychologically, financially, and socially. This is not to say that you would give up on or neglect your child or family, but your health and well-being matters just as much as the person you're caring for. It's important to know the signs and symptoms of caregiver burnout so you can get the help you need when you need it most. One of the most important things you can do as a parent or caregiver is to take time to practice self-care. Oftentimes, when people hear the term self-care, they picture some grand, luxurious experience like a day at the spa, a massage, a vacation, or something else along those lines. And while that is definitely a form of self-care at its roots simply means doing things like not missing personal appointments, eating well, getting enough sleep, and exercising. It is not selfish to take care of yourself while taking care of someone else. The next item on this list is to ask for help. Now, I understand it is not always easy to ask someone for help or to accept it. Sometimes your support system doesn't even recognize the need unless you ask for it. You may need to practice saying yes when someone you trust offers you help, or saying no when more tasks fall on your plate. Oftentimes, others will be more than willing to help you with everyday tasks or errands if you are simply willing to ask. Support groups or any other kind of group therapy have demonstrated similar benefits for parents and caregivers as they do for children and adolescents, including reduced stress, better coping strategies, the ability to share experiences and learn from each other, reduced feelings of isolation and stigma, and an increased sense of empowerment. Lastly, many of the mental health strategies provided a few slides back, including journaling, hobby and leisure activity participation, or referral to a psychologist or other healthcare professional, can also be beneficial for providing respite care or further assistance if needed. These are my references for this presentation, and thank you so much for watching.